This is take 6. A lot of cool things to get to for you today, including a check of our forecast. We always like to get you up to date on what is going on with the weather. And I know a lot of us, the camera is possessed by a gremlin right now. So a lot of us are a little uneasy about the tropics, obviously, given that we were dealing with Helene last week. And so many of our friends and neighbors still dealing with the effects of Helene off to the north. We are watching one thing in the tropics. We'll talk more about this and why it is different from Helene. We're also going to catch up with News 6 investigator Lewis Bolden. You remember about 6 months ago, the Carnival Freedom caught on fire part of the ship mid-cruise with passengers on board. Now Lewis is hearing from some of those passengers who are trying to get refunds, and it is not going well for them. So Lewis will talk to us a little bit more about that. But first, you may recall back in August, News 6's Molly Reed introduced us to a Volusia County woman who came up with a new type of ID bracelet. It's called Sharewear. And she said this is going to be game-changing as far as locating missing and vulnerable people. It involves QR codes, and it's a database that anyone in the public can access, which is different from a lot of the ID bracelets a lot of local police agencies work with. So we wanted to see how it's going. So that's where News 6's Erik von Ancken comes in. He joins us now live from his car to talk more about his Protecting Our Community segment. And Lewis, you went to DeLand to learn more about how this is working for them. I'm sorry,
Hey,
you're not
Julie,
Lewis, you're Erik.
feel free to call me Erik, yeah. So yes, and this is our new 6 car, and in fact, I should tell you that I just jumped into it with Destiny
Hi,
here.
Destiny.
Because as always, we're trying to get results, working on something very interesting today, but that's for the future. So what you're talking about with these bracelets. So, it occurred to us, Julie, we have done so many stories on um, identification type bracelets, right? And the problem with all of those, and you pointed this out briefly, is that you need a police officer or a sheriff's deputy to identify the information stored either in that bracelet, so physically, with an RFID chip or, something where that information in the bracelet is revealed by the device that the police officer has, or typically it's online, right? So if there's a QR code, only the police officer can click on that bracelet and find out, okay, hey, let's say I just encountered a child who may be autistic. What triggers that child, right? So, is it noises? Is it light? Is it police? Is it people in uniform? The problem is if somebody finds that child who might have wandered off and they're seeing the bracelet, so, they know that this is a special situation. They can't do anything to help. They don't have the information. I'm going to say they can't do anything. They don't have the information to help because it cannot be revealed until they pick up the phone, call the police department, the officer comes out, and then he or she scans that bracelet and says, oh, okay, well, this is why the child, for example, may be unable to communicate because of A, B, and C that I just found out about, the officer just found out about by scanning that bracelet. So this works in many communities. It takes a little bit longer. And of course, you have to get into police officer involved. What appealed to us about this, and Molly Reed first reported on the invention of these bracelets by this nurse in Volusia County, former nurse in Volusia County. We followed up and we said, well, wait a second. This bracelet, that one right there, they call it Sharewear, can now be read by anybody with a cell phone. So, that's not to say that we shouldn't involve police. That's not to say if you found, God forbid, a child wandering, that you shouldn't call police anyway, because certainly wouldn't hurt if the police were involved, and certainly the police could contact the parents very quickly. But you also have the information immediately as you're standing there with that child, and you know everything that the parent entered into that website. So whatever the parent wants, let's say a person who might encounter their child to know about their child, you get to find it out on the spot in that moment just by pulling out your cell phone. And the second thing, Julie, the other reason we went back, we actually went straight to the DeLand police chief because he was the first one to get a bunch of donations. I think it was 25 bracelets. And that police chief, I said, you've now had them for a few months. Is it getting results? He didn't, and maybe this is a good thing, didn't have examples of children that had been found with the bracelets but he was still just as positive. And again, he had the same idea as me that hey, we coincidentally have been looking for bracelets, and this is the answer because we don't need to necessarily involve our officers when someone is found with a bracelet.
And I know that Sharewear has made some donations to a variety of agencies in Volusia and Flagler counties. But is this something that anyone can access? Say, if you have a loved one with dementia or someone that you're fearful might wander away, is this something that any of us can get our hands on?
Absolutely. They have a website. We put it inside this story on clickorlando.com. As always, just look under the Getting Results Protecting Our Community tab. But so Amanda is the nurse. She donated, I want to say, a little over 100 or so in total bracelets to, as you pointed out, Julie, a whole bunch of organizations, namely law enforcement organizations across Volusia County. You could start there. If you don't want to buy a bracelet, you certainly could start there. You could try the DeLand Police Department. They did have a bunch if you want a free one. Otherwise, let's say you don't live close or you want a customized bracelet. So you saw in the video there, there are different colors, there's different emblems you can put on the bracelet, like this one. Some people, there are certain emblems and logos that represent certain conditions. You can have that put on your bracelet. Destiny, the things that you put on Crocs. So my kids have
Gibbets.
Crocs. I just gibbets. Yeah. Gibbets. Okay, so I learned a new word. So Julie, Amanda compared the little things that you can stick
Yeah.
into the holes in the bracelets to the gibbets that you can put onto Crocs. So again, you can put them on for fun, or again, if you believe that for your child or your loved one they're medically necessary, you can purchase specific gibbets, but you can't use that word because it's copyrighted. So certain things that you stick onto your bracelet, again, to customize it for you, your child, your loved one. I believe they sell for starting at $21 on the website, Julie.
It is such a great idea, and I'm so glad that you're following up because I feel like so many people can benefit from this. And this is just, just to be able to scan. I do feel like it might be a little weird walking up to someone and being like, "Hey, can I scan your arm?" But I imagine that if you have a child and they're wearing this, you might be like, "Hey, if you ever get lost, you can tell a grown up to scan your arm," or something like that. I don't know, with your
Right. I,
non-gibbets.
and 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 you make a good point, Julie. I would imagine that if a child is truly lost, the child would be in distress,
Yeah.
and then perhaps it would be less weird to scan that bracelet. But sure, it's never a bad idea to involve a police officer if you think that whether it's a child, it could be an Alzheimer's patient, it could be anyone, suffering from anything, a mental episode,
Mhm.
to where they just need help and they have a bracelet, obviously your first instinct should be to call law enforcement. But if you see that bracelet and you feel that you are willing to get involved and it's appropriate, then yeah, you could scan it. I should share this with you too, Julie. Before I go, I asked Amanda because I was fascinated because basically she started this business herself. She
Mhm.
was a nurse and she came up with this idea. She found a supplier overseas in China and worked out a deal for them to create the bracelets. She sends the QR codes to them, unique QR codes and RFID codes, I guess, and they put them and even embed them into the bracelets, and then they ship them to her. So I mean, I was totally impressed by this because she
Yes.
is a true entrepreneur who decided to do something, to do more, right? So I said, how'd you come up with the idea? She, in her downtime, which as a nurse, as you know, you don't have much downtime. In her downtime, she was selling things online with QR codes. So things that people could purchase for an event if they need a QR code. Let's say, hey, if you'd like to donate for your,
Mhm.
my event or personal reasons or whatever it is. But she had already figured out the whole QR code thing. And then I believe it was her mother-in-law, and came to her and said, this QR code thing, and getting them printed, and getting them linked to like a website. Could you do this for your father-in-law? Because he's his health was failing, and God forbid we want some sort of identifier on him. And then she
Wow.
said, if I can do it for him, I could do it for anybody. And that's how this was born.
I love it. She saw a need that wasn't being met and was like, hey, I'm going to do something about this. So many of us see needs that aren't being met and we're just like, oh, someone should fix this. And she did it. So that's amazing. What a great story.
Agreed? Yeah, today at 5.
All right, Erik, thank you so much. You and Destiny have a nice day on the rest of your journey, wherever it may take you.
Back to work. Thank
All
you. Bye,
right.
everybody.
Thanks,
Enjoy your
Erik.
Wednesday.
And again, that story with Erik von Ancken is coming up on News 6 at 5. We're going to take a short break, and after the break, we'll be joined by News 6's Lewis Bolden. He is catching up with a woman who was on that Carnival cruise ship about 6 months ago that caught on fire, and he will have her story about how she is trying to get a refund. We'll also check out your forecast. Stay with us. We are back in 2 minutes. Welcome back to Take 6. The time now is 12:43. Thank you so much for sticking with us on this Wednesday. Hope your day is going well. Now, you may recall about 6 months ago, we covered extensively a Carnival cruise ship, the Carnival Freedom, that actually part of that ship caught on fire mid-cruise with passengers on board. So that, of course, was a big story. And you would think, maybe if you were on that cruise, you might get some sort of accommodations or refunds from Carnival. News 6 investigator Lewis Bolden is here. And Lewis, I was really stunned to hear about the topic of your story today because I did not see this going how it's going. You've been talking to a woman who was on that cruise and she feels like she's not having a whole lot of success here.
That's right, Julie. We have been following this story closely since it happened, and those passengers months later are still fighting for a refund. Carnival is holding firm, but many of those passengers are learning the hard way that when things don't go as planned, cruise lines don't necessarily owe you anything.
There's so many better ways that they could have handled this.
Michelle Mackenzie Hernandez says it was her friend's first cruise. And midway through, the tail of the Carnival Freedom caught fire.
Team members are swarming the deck, pushing everybody in, everybody, running in and filming, and it was kind of crazy.
Mackenzie Hernandez says many of the venues on the back of the ship were shut down for the day, including the pool, restaurants, and basketball court. Would you say it ruined your cruise?
Yeah.
The fire was one thing, but Mackenzie says the way Carnival has handled the incident since then has made it worse.
I mean, to have a fire on your ship, that's like the worst thing you would ever want to happen, and then to not do anything.
Carnival is not giving refunds or future cruise credits to any of the passengers. A spokesperson for the company wrote in an email to News 6, "We did not offer compensation to guests who were on Carnival Freedom when the fire occurred because the cruise was not interrupted and no ports were missed due to the fire."
They just, I feel, completely dropped the ball on customer service.
Now, in that email to us from Carnival, a spokesperson went on to say, "We offered guests compensation who were set to embark on the next 2 cruises because we canceled those sailings as we took the ship out of service to complete work on its funnel. So the people that were supposed to take the next 2 cruises got refunds. The passengers on board when the fire happened did not." Getting results, I'm Bolden, News 6. So Michelle Mackenzie Hernandez has taken about 50 cruises. She said about 75% of them have been with Carnival, but because of this, she is now rethinking that. Carnival is holding firm, and she says that it was, I mean, you can just imagine what that must have felt like to look up and you see, the funnel, the tail of the ship on fire.
Oh my gosh.
And so the staff was fighting the fire with fire hoses, and she said water was going into all of the areas that were below that area. So there were several areas that were shut down for the day after that. So, she really feels like that there should be some sort of compensation, whether it's a refund, a future cruise credit, something.
Yeah.
But Carnival is holding firm.
I mean, it's great that they didn't miss any ports. It's great that no one was hurt. They were able to cruise on. But I can just imagine, like for me only, the anxiety I would feel watching part of your home, your mode of transportation to catch on fire. Then I would be so uneasy the rest of the time, just wondering what's going to happen next. Yes, they got to go on all their excursions. All of that's wonderful. But man, I mean, that'd be a lot to handle emotionally.
Oh yeah. And you talked about the anxiety of it. If you've ever been on the cruise and like the alarms start to go
yes.
off and you have to go to, the emergency sections when you have those drills. Those things can cause anxiety even when it's a false alarm, but to look
Yes.
up and actually see a fire, so I'm sure that was pretty stressful.
Yeah.
And they initially thought that they would be offered something, but that just has not happened. And they were, she also has feelings that the 2 cruises that were scheduled on that ship later in the week had to be canceled, and so those people got refunds. But the people who were on the ship when the fire happened, nothing.
Yeah, I just remember seeing the video and just that billowing smoke. And then as you're describing them watching the crew members put it out, I'm just like gasping for air, just imagining. Again, I get no one was hurt, no one missed their excursions, but do you have any advice for us, Lewis, on what to do when we're booking cruises?
Actually, yes, we do have some advice.
Can you just
We're gonna
plan
get
my
into that.
life?
I've got you. So what we did is we talked to a travel agent about some things that you could do if something like this happened. How can you protect your investment? And so we're going to look into that coming up at 6 o'clock. And she says travel insurance is the key, but you don't want to book it through the cruise line. And we interviewed a woman who is the owner of Elite Travel, has years and years of experience in the travel industry. And her advice is to book trip insurance, but not necessarily through the cruise lines.
Okay.
And we're going to talk more about that coming up tonight at 6 o'clock.
Okay, I will be looking forward to that. I like that you use the phrase protecting your investment, because these trips are not free. These trips are not cheap. And, you spend the money, you want them to go the way you want them to go. So I'm looking forward to that story at 6, Lewis.
Yep, no problem.
All right. Thank you so much. And let's go ahead and get a check of your weather. I can tell you I was on a shoot outside today. A really great story you're going to see coming up next week in Pine Hills. We went to the Pine Hills Community Center and we were checking in with some preschoolers, some of the Head Start students working on a garden. Awesome story. I will tell you, it feels really hot out there. If you've been outside, you already know that. And of course, we're also watching the tropics and how that could potentially impact our weather, especially later this weekend into next week. So here's a look for you. Notice the area highlighted in orange, encompassing much of the Gulf of Mexico, as well as the northwestern Caribbean. The National Hurricane Center is giving a 40% chance of development in that shaded area over the next several days. Of course, a lot of us are uneasy because this is the same area where we watched Helene develop. It is a very different setup atmospherically. While we could see a tropical depression develop by the weekend, maybe even a tropical storm, we're not going to be dealing with the power and the intensity of a storm like Helene. However, this is likely going to be a big rainmaker for us as we move through the next several days, regardless of whether it officially organizes or not, although we think there is a good chance it will become a tropical depression at the very least. So over the next 7 days, here's a look at potential rainfall totals. Notice we could be talking about more than 5 inches of rain in Brevard County, especially south of Cocoa Beach, and pockets of heavier rain around 3 inches where you see those areas of orange, like down toward the attractions, down toward the airport, and also in southern Sumter County. This is something that we are all watching very closely. We will continue to keep you updated on air and online as well. Now, as we take you through the day today, we are continuing to see temperatures feeling like the low 100s. Right now, it's 88 in Orlando, 84 in Ocala. Factor in the relative humidity, it feels like 99 in Orlando, feels like 88 in Palm Coast. Here's a look at the radar. You see those showers already coming in, approaching I-4 in Volusia County. That is our East Coast sea breeze. So as we add some more daytime heating into the day, and we'll get some showers coming in from the west, where those boundaries collide later today, that's where we could see some pockets of heavier rain and even some gusty winds as well. So I will be with you on News 6 starting at 4, pinpointing any of those showers. Here is your 7-day forecast. 60% chance of showers today and tomorrow. We trim that back just a little bit for Friday and Saturday as some slightly drier air moves in. And then by Sunday, we are looking at that tropical moisture with rain chances going up to 70%. And we'll leave it there until Tuesday. Again, we'll see you on News 6 starting at 4 with the very latest on the tropics and what is going on with that area of interest in the Caribbean. Lisa Bell and Ginger Gadsden will be with us as well. If you have any questions or comments for us at Take 6, head to clickorlando.com/Take6 to let us know what's on your mind. Thanks so much for spending some time with us on this Wednesday, and I'll see you at 4.